Marcus Lamb was once seen as a towering figure in Christian broadcasting. For years, he stood at the center of Daystar television network. A man with a mission, a microphone, and millions who tuned in to hear his message. But time has a way of reshaping stories, and sometimes, the people who knew someone best begin to see them through a different lens. Some call it reflection. Others call it reckoning. Either way, Marcus Lamb's legacy is being rewritten, not by outsiders, but by those who walked with him the closest. Before we go deeper, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue bringing stories like this to light. There's something different about the way people speak now when they talk about Marcus Lamb. In public, his name still draws admiration, especially from viewers who were inspired by his sermons or uplifted by his passion for faith-based programming. But behind the scenes, among former staff, friends, and even some family members, the conversations are more complicated. People are opening up about their experiences, good and bad, and it's leading to a shift in how Marcus is remembered. For a long time, Marcus was seen as a pioneer. Daystar was his dream, and he made it into a global platform. What began as a small Christian station grew into a massive media empire, reaching over 200 countries and boasting a huge following. It's undeniable. His impact was real, and many lives were changed through his ministry. But that doesn't mean everything behind the scenes was perfect. One of Marcus's former producers, who asked to remain anonymous, shared something that stuck with us. Marcus was driven, no question. But sometimes that drive came at a cost. We worked crazy hours. There were moments when we were expected to deliver beyond what was humanly possible, and when we couldn't, it felt like a personal failure. This wasn't said with anger, just quiet honesty. As more and more former employees come forward with stories like this, a clearer picture begins to emerge. Not one of scandal, necessarily, but of pressure. Of burnout. Of dreams pushed to the limit. It's the kind of thing that's easy to miss when you're on the outside looking in. Marcus's leadership style, some say, was heavily influenced by his belief in divine timing. He believed that if something was meant to be, God would make it happen, but that didn't mean waiting around. It meant pushing, believing, and working non-stop. For those close to him, that meant high expectations, and sometimes very little rest. But it wasn't all hardship. Many who worked with Marcus also recall moments of kindness, generosity, and genuine faith. One former staff member recalled how Marcus personally paid for their medical treatment during a difficult time. Another shared how he prayed with employees before every big decision. He was always spiritual first. He believed everything we did had to align with God's will. And that gave many of us purpose. Still, the narrative is changing. In the wake of Marcus's death, people are revisiting old memories, sorting through moments that didn't make sense back then, but now feel clearer. It's like pieces of a puzzle finally clicking together. And then there's Joanie Lamb. In the past year, Joanie has taken on a much more public role, leading Daystar forward and becoming the face of the network. Her presence is strong, but it's also stirred some debate. Some supporters applaud her for stepping up, for being a woman in leadership in a space often dominated by men. Others are more skeptical, especially in light of the controversies that have recently surrounded the network. Some have wondered if Joanie's leadership style mirrors Marcus's. Is she carrying on his legacy, or is she trying to reshape it entirely? In interviews, she's spoken about honoring Marcus's vision while also adapting to the needs of the present. But not everyone agrees on what that means. Inside Daystar, there have been quiet shifts, changes in programming, new hires, and whispers about internal tensions. None of it is public, but in media circles, the changes haven't gone unnoticed. Some speculate that Joanie is trying to steer the ship differently, perhaps even away from the shadows Marcus left behind. All of this adds to the complexity of how Marcus Lamb is remembered today. To some, he is still the founder, the visionary who built something out of nothing. To others, he's become a symbol of the pressure and ambition that sometimes weighed too heavily on those around him. There's no denying the spiritual impact Marcus had. His preaching reached millions, and many still say they found faith through his words. But now, the conversation is widening. People are asking harder questions, not to tear down a man's legacy, but to understand it more fully. What did Marcus stand for? What did he believe? And at what cost did his vision come to life? Even among his family, the reflections are mixed. Those close to the Lamb family have said there have been private conversations, moments where truth met memory, and where difficult topics were finally spoken aloud. It's never easy to examine someone you love under a microscope. But sometimes, it's necessary. At Daystar, the mission continues. Broadcasts still go out. Viewers still tune in. But behind the glossy surface, there is a quiet reshaping happening. New voices are rising. Old habits are being challenged. And through it all, Marcus's presence still lingers, not as a perfect figure, but as a man whose life, like anyone's, was made of both light and shadow. The legacy of Marcus Lamb is not being erased. It's being expanded by those who knew him best, who lived through the highs and lows, who are now finally ready to tell the full story. Some believe that legacy is now in Joanie's hands, but it's not just hers alone. It belongs to everyone who helped build Daystar from the ground up. The producers, the editors, the prayer team, the viewers, the critics. All of them played a part. And now, as new stories emerge, they're helping shape what comes next. Interestingly, some younger staff members at Daystar say they feel a new kind of energy around the place. One production assistant said, "It feels like we're being heard more. Like there's room to try new things." This might be Joanie's influence, or it might just be the natural evolution of a network that has spent decades in the same routine. There's a quiet acknowledgement among longtime employees that the old way of doing things might not work anymore. Audiences have changed. The world has changed. Faith is still at the core, but how it's expressed is different now. And for Daystar to remain relevant, it must keep adapting, just like Marcus did when he first began. Perhaps the most honest legacy anyone can leave behind is one that inspires growth, not imitation. Maybe Marcus Lamb's true impact wasn't in creating a formula to follow, but in sparking others to find their own voice, their own purpose, and their own way to serve. And as long as those conversations continue, as long as people feel free to ask the hard questions, share the difficult truths, and honor the beautiful ones too, then the story of Marcus Lamb won't fade. It will grow. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss what's coming next.